Hello everyone and happy Tuesday. I'm here because this week is about Justice for Animals Week, and I wanted to talk a little bit about animal rights before you start your day. So, a lot of people know about the basic animal rights in terms of dog fighting, shark finning, transportation of farm animals for slaughter, things like that, and I have talked about them before. That was one of my very first live videos before I got the little tripod. But I want to talk a little bit about the criminal code. I have the Canadian one and the Ontario one. So just a little brief about this, and then I'll go into the things that I just mentioned. So in the Criminal Code of Canada, anyone commits an offense who willfully causes or permits to be caused unnecessary pain, suffering, or injury to an animal. That's very broad, but there are more people like that out there than you could possibly imagine. And this includes the Dog Meat Festival in China, but of course they're not privy to the Canadian Criminal Code because the laws there are different, unfortunately, on this one. In any manner encourages, aids, or assistance in the fighting or baiting of animals or birds. So in this case, they're considering birds separate from animals, but anyway. Baiting them for fighting, which again is way more common than people think. And a lot of people, we live in our little bubble of not ignorance, but just we don't really know that it's going on, because we live in a society where people don't really talk about that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to bring some of it to light for you. Willfully, without reasonable excuse, administers a poisonous or injurious drug or substance to a domestic animal or bird, one that is wild by nature or kept in captivity, and if you're the owner, you willfully permit the giving of this substance. So this is people who drug their fighting dogs or captured animals to subdue them in order to control them. And again, this is way more common than people think, and it breaks my heart. Promotes, arranges, conducts, assists in, receives money for, or takes part in any meeting, competition, exhibition, pastime, practice, display, or event, at or in the course of which captured birds are liberated by hand, trap, contrivance, or any other means for the purpose of being shot when they're liberated. So a lot of times, or in some cultures, it's a rite of passage to hunt or do things such as what I just said. And I'm not saying there's anything, I don't have anything against all of those traditions, but maybe something a little less brutal would be appreciated. Being the owner, occupier, or person in charge of any premise permits the premise or any part thereof to be used for a purpose mentioned above. So if you own the property where any of those things are taking part, then technically you can be charged under the Criminal Code of Canada, which is pretty big. But for the provincial code, there's a few different sections. So one is for the standards of care for animals. One has to do with animals kept for exhibition, entertainment, boarding, hire, or sale. But the laws are actually quite clear on this one. Hello to whoever joined me. So the part on obligations and prohibitions re care of and harm to animals. Every person who owns or has custody or care of an animal shall comply with the prescribed standards of care and the prescribed administrative requirements with respect to every animal that the person owns or has custody or care of. Circa 2015. So it wasn't that long ago that they updated this, and they've updated quite a few sections several times, but this is basic animal rights. If you own an animal, you're responsible for feeding them, exercising them, and making sure they have clean water. That's the bare minimum. a lot of animals have that but still don't get necessary medical care that they need. And these are going back to the chain dogs that I talked about, but some of them don't even get food or water or shelter. So that's a whole nother topic. But no person shall cause an animal to be in distress. This is pretty much every circus animal or zoo animal that exists, because none of them want to be captive. Unless they're permanently injured in a way that wouldn't allow them to survive in their own society, then this includes all zoo animals. No owner or custodian of an animal shall permit the animal to be in distress. So even if you're charged for taking care of the animal, but the animal doesn't belong to you, you can still be charged. No person shall train an animal to fight with another animal, or permit an animal that the person owns or has custody of to fight for another animal. Again, this is the dog fighting. In the olden days, when they had gladiator fights, they would occasionally add a lion or a tiger to the pit and make the person, typically a prisoner, fight the lion or tiger. Occasionally he had help from other prisoners, but sometimes it was one-on-one. And it may look entertaining in movies, but it's really, really dangerous and obviously ethically wrong for the animals. So there's something to think about. No person shall own or have possession of equipment or structures that are used in animal fights or training animals to fight. So this, when I talked about dog fighting, I talked about how the animals are bred, and the females are chained to a structure and basically raped. And that's how they get more fighting dogs. And any dog that refuses to fight gets electrocuted, starved, or injured. They cut them. So having or owning any of these on your property is a big thing. And I know there was a story about an ex-football player, can't remember who, I'm not big on sports, that had a dog fighting ring on his property, and they seized over 60 dogs from his property and all of the associated paraphernalia. So that was just heartbreaking to see, but most of the dogs are being recovered. Hopefully some of them, I think, some of them did have to be put down, but luckily most of them are finding homes, which is really nice to see. No person shall harm or cause harm to a dog, horse, or other animal that works with peace officers in the execution of their duty, whether or not the animal is working at the time of harm. So these are the RCMP, mounted police in Toronto, things like that. A lot of street festivals or regular festivals that you go to can have mounted police there, and if you purposefully injure one of the mounted horses, you can be charged. I have seen some demonstrations from the mounted police, and these animals are trained very, very well. So that's like injuring a professional athlete in this case. And I know they're not show jumpers or race horses, but these horses have very, very important jobs to keep people safe. And I don't understand how people can injure other animals like that, but I know that's not just me who feels that way. So the protection of animals by society, this includes ones that are kept for exhibitions, entertainment, boarding, sale, or hire. So this does include zoo animals. This includes race horses, any entertainment animals, so pony rides, or people who have camels that do camel rides at the zoo, things like that. And this one basically just says that inspectors can, without a warrant, go and enter the property and inspect a building or place where animals are kept to determine whether the standards of care and administrative requirements are being complied with. And if they don't, they have the option to sue and remove the animal. which for a lot of people that would be very distressing. If somebody came on your property and said, you're not treating these animals right, I'm going to take them all away. But realistically, we do the same thing with children. So if child care comes and says, you aren't looking after your child properly, we are going to put him or her in the foster system and find someone who will care for her or him. It's the same thing. Although with animals, typically they're bought and sold to new owners rather than found a new loving home for free. But that is how it works in our society. I'll talk really briefly about shark finning because I know a lot of people actually don't know about that one. Sorry. Basically, the sharks that are being killed for their fins, they can't swim and move around once their fins are cut off. So they're caught, their fins are cut off, and then they're tossed back in the water to bleed to death and be eaten by other sharks. And a lot of times they suffocate before this happens because they can't breathe without, I know they breathe through their gills, but they suffocate without their fins because they can't move to get the water moving through their gills. So it's pretty distressing because the number of sharks left in the wild is very low, and people catch them, take their fins, and leave the rest. And if they're not even utilizing the rest of the body, I'm totally against shark finning, but at least use the rest of the body. If you're going to kill them anyway, use the rest of the body. I know there's been a lot of talk about the ivory trade because of Trump's idea of removing the ban on killing them and trading ivory, which is a big problem because there are already way too little elephants left, and they're beautiful creatures. And they may not serve an immediate function, but that doesn't mean that they deserve to all be slaughtered. So that's something else to think about. That's all I have to say about animal rights right now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to message me about it. I'm going to be out most of the day, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back next Tuesday to talk about something, I'm sure. But I will see you next week.